You talk a lot about systems in your work. And I want to talk about this. I think people are interested in this because we all grow up a certain way to a certain family and a certain societal ranking with norms. And you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so you think life kind of is supposed to progress a certain way. And you hit on an idea that excellence is not built, it's discovered. And there's some research around this I want to talk about for people so they feel the freedom to break out. If you're loving life and you're in peace and you're happy, sweet baby, keep developing and growing. But I think a lot of people out there aren't very satisfied. They're not super fulfilled and they want something else, but they feel trapped. And I want them to feel today like, hey, you are not trapped. You have options. And so the quote from this research is, expert performance can be traced to active engagement in deliberate practice, not experience alone. And that's Kay Anders Ericsson's foundational work on deliberate practice that shows long experience without structured improvement leads to average performance, while focused, feedback-driven practice produces excellence. So 2 takeaways there. One is the one I want to go for. One is the other one I want to recognize and then put on the sideline, which is some old school cats think, hey man, I'm the old school cat. I'm top of the totem pole. I'm the best. But just because they've been practicing a skill or a trait for a long time doesn't mean that they're an expert at it because they haven't been deliberately practicing and mastering it over time. They've just been clocking in and clocking out. It's not the type of person I want to be. I hope it's not the type of person you want to be. So I'm setting that idea on the sideline. The one I want to focus on is with deliberate practice, you can become something you're not. True or false?
Absolutely.
Have you seen it done with your clients?
All the time. That's actually what we do. The sizzle. So I always talk about got to sell the sizzle and give them what they need. The sizzle is growth, profitability, more revenue, more expansion, but really it's a process of transformation of becoming who they know they can become, and then in placing that trust with me to help them walk with them to become that kind of person. They've also made decisions in their life to improve. Like I recently posted one client in particular stopped drinking and completely changed their life. And I was involved well after that decision was made, but they made that initial decision and they knew who they're becoming. Another client, we talked about them facing more friction together, meaning that he would face more friction head on versus avoiding it. Another client would be like quitting doom scrolling and social media. So like all these little subtleties and all these small things sound stupid or they sound very simple, but they actually make radical transformations. Because at the end of the day, when just to allude back of like what we were talking about growing up, you mentioned a lot of the good highlights, but I've also seen like the negative and the bad things, like family, friends, or close relatives not develop into who they could be. Addictions, drugs, even death. So it's you when you see that close around you, and you see that a lot of these things, I wouldn't say are circumstance or choice. Later in life, I learned also about like human needs, our identity, how we understand who we are, how we communicate who we are, how our environment shapes part of that, how we decide to observe our environment, how we see ourselves as our future. Um, it helps me understand like all those things aren't, you can't just put a judgment label on that. Um, but to circle about your point about building excellence over time and quote unquote following rules, I just learned from other people's lives. What's other people's lives who lived longer than me or who have lived a conglomerate of like different humans saying the same thing principle. I'm just going to follow that principle, and that's how I started picking up the right habits and the right things to hopefully get into what I now am doing. That's more deliberate practice.